In what sense is every family in heaven and on earth named by God? Ephesians chapter 3 verse 15 is one of those verses that seems simple at first glance, but opens into a deeper question the more closely you read. Paul writes that every family in heaven and on earth is named from God, according to the American Standard Version. But what does this mean? Is Paul speaking about all families in general, human and angelic, or about something more specific? Part of the difficulty arises from how different Bible translations render the verse. The King James Version reads, "of whom the whole family in heaven and earth is named," suggesting that Paul is speaking of one unified family, the family of God, that stretches across both heaven and earth. The American Standard Version, however, renders it, "from whom every family in heaven and on earth is named," giving the impression that Paul is referring to all families broadly, human families, angelic orders, and so on. Which one is correct? To get clarity, we must look at the original Greek and then, just as importantly, at the context. Some have suggested that Paul is speaking about different kinds of spiritual families, even angelic ones, that exist in the heavenly realm. But this invites speculation. After all, Jesus made clear in Mark chapter 12, verse 25, that angels do not marry or reproduce. Whatever families exist among them would not resemble earthly families in any meaningful way. Others suppose Paul is making a poetic statement that every earthly family, by existing at all, owes its origin to God. While that may be true in a general sense, God is indeed the creator of all, the context of Ephesians chapters 2 and 3 shows us that Paul is not speaking broadly, he is speaking about the people of God. Some of this comes down to how Greek handles the definite article. Unlike English, the presence or absence of the in Greek can change a sentence's tone, but it doesn't always change its meaning. Often Greek omits the article even when referring to something definite, especially when the meaning is already clear from context. In this case, the Greek phrase can be translated either as every family or the whole family, depending on how you read the flow of Paul's argument. And Paul's context makes the meaning plain. Throughout Ephesians chapters 2 and 3, Paul is emphasizing unity. Jews and Gentiles made one in Christ, strangers becoming citizens, outsiders becoming members of the household of God. He is not breaking believers up into groups, he is bringing them together into one family. That's why the King James rendering, "the whole family in heaven and earth," better reflects Paul's message. He is not talking about all families in a generic sense, he is speaking of the family, the household of God. Some of that family is already in heaven, awaiting the resurrection. The rest remain on earth, still running the race. But both are united under one Father. All are named by him, which is to say they bear his authority, his identity, and his care. The family's name is not just a label, it is a sign of belonging, of purpose, and of promise. Among men, a father is expected to provide for and protect those who bear his name. Paul uses that same understanding to frame his prayer in the next verses. If God's family bears his name, and if those in heaven are already gloriously provided for, then it is only right to expect that he will strengthen and supply the needs of his children still on earth. The name implies responsibility, and Paul appeals to that truth as he prays for the church's strength and unity. In this light, Ephesians chapter 3 verse 15 is not a vague theological comment. It is a deeply personal affirmation of the church's identity. Whether gathered around the throne in glory or scattered across the earth in service, God's people are one family, and he is not ashamed to be called their Father.